Hello, movie friends. Well, I just watched Stagecoach from 1939, and I can't stop thinking about four things. Stagecoach is directed by John Ford, and it stars John Wayne. And it's about a group of strangers traveling together by stagecoach through dangerous territory, each bringing their own past, prejudice, and secrets into a journey that could kill all of them. So the first thing I can't stop thinking about is how beautiful the movie is. The cinematography, the composition, the shadows, unbelievable. This is 1930s, right? So I don't really know what they're working with here in terms of lights. Like what kind of gaffers do they have in the 1930s? They're shooting at night. The low light is fantastic. Some of the shots are unbelievable. There are some things with the score that I didn't really like. You know, back then they felt like they kind of made like these big orchestral scores because they didn't really have anything else. You know, there might have been other people making interesting sound related films in the past. I guess even Metropolis or M like has some interesting sounds, but this had kind of like a big pop culture score, which is the only thing that it took me a while to get into. But the way that he shot it, there were some scenes you could tell like he just was he must have been so aware of like European filmmakers and everything, where they're using shots down a hallway with the lights and how the woman would walk in and John Wayne would stand to the side. There were so many shots where he used shadow to introduce the character before they came into the picture. It had a really interesting, almost like horror film kind of usage, if that's correct. You know, during the daytime, it's just daytime, but there are some really beautiful night shots. So that's the first thing I can't stop thinking about, is how beautiful it was for being a 1939 film. There's really a lot of thought going into these conceptual ideas of lighting and visual art and the mix and how that helps tell the story. It's beautiful. All right, the second thing I can't stop thinking about was how dangerous the world feels back then. I mean, has anybody out there driven across the country? Because I have. And I gotta tell you, it looks pretty much the same, other than the fact that there's like 20 feet of concrete all the way from one side to the other. There are times where I'm like, once you get past Fargo up north, I remember driving out to the Pacific Northwest several times. Once you get past Fargo, it's like, what if I break down here? Like, feels like, I don't feel like there's gonna be Apache coming left and right on me, but like, what am I gonna do? I haven't seen a car for 20 minutes, you know, either direction. So to think about back then, anytime you wanted to travel, that you had all these warring tribes that would come after you, it's pretty incredible anything got started here, don't you think? I mean, to have a situation where to go to another town, not only are you traveling by wagon, but also you're having to deal with people who want to kill you. I would just stay put. No wonder people stayed put. It really kind of says something about the mentality, perhaps, of the country as a culture, but also the psychological makeup of people who actually have roots out west, on the west side of the country. You know, think about all the mentality that goes into leaving Europe and getting on a ship and saying, I'll take the risk of sea monsters to get away from where I'm at. Can't take the drizzle, you know? To do that, and then to get there and be like, let's keep going with this, and go all the way across, and you've got different tribes, and you don't even know what you're getting towards. You may have heard stories about an ocean, but you don't know. I mean, what are you seeing, drawings in the 1700s of water? You have no idea what you're getting into. So just to think about that, and like, you know, you'd be lucky to find a doctor anywhere. You're not going to find one on a wagon wheel in the middle of Utah. I mean, it's just crazy. You're just kind of on your own, which is kind of fascinating and appealing and interesting, which adds like a really just incredible element to this film. The danger of it, and like the isolation, and the space that's around you, and the exploration, and not just into the scenery, into the setting, but also the exploration that goes in to the development of relationships between characters. You know, you've got this woman who's a sex worker back in the day. I think that's what she is. And John Wayne's sticking up for her in front of the banker and like the professor, or there's just all these different dynamics that are going into these prejudices and class things. And it's kind of like just being challenged, which I loved. And all that goes into the setting. It just makes for a really incredible movie. All right, so the third thing I can't stop thinking about is these stunts, and they're fucking incredible. Some of them, like it's 1939, right? So the stunts you're seeing on film, that's what's actually happening, of course. And some of them are just like mind blowing. His name's Yakima Canute, who did, I guess, most of the stunts. There's a scene where, 6 horses in front of a wagon getting chased by Apache on each side. How they're fucking filming this, I have no idea. They must have been on like a flatbed, but what did they have back then? And then you have Canute, who climbs, he's pretending to be John Wayne, right? He's the stunt double. He climbs up the horses and gets on and rides them. That's one stunt. The other stunt is where he gets down and plays an Apache, does the same thing where he rides the horse up to the other 6 horses, jumps from his horse to the other horses, and then John Wayne shoots him, so he pretends to fall while going whatever, 30, 40 miles an hour. I don't know how fast 6 horses goes. And then falls and has to fall through the horses and the wagon wheels. So whatever the width is there of the wagon wheel, he has to fall perfectly in line or he dies, I guess. I don't know. It happened to somebody in the Lone Ranger. And I think they were really badly hurt, but they recovered from it. It's incredible. Just watch it. For that alone, to watch it. And not only that, but for them to get it. How many takes are you getting of that? You could probably only do 1. Because the more you do, you're increasing the chance of death or injury through the roof. So they probably did this in 1 take. I don't know the story, but it's fucking incredible. And just to think about the things they had to go through. And one thing I want to mention too is that I heard someone, Peter Bogdanovich or somebody, was talking about how the stunts in this movie in Yakima Canute was on Criterion. And they kind of did an homage to this in Indiana Jones. Do you remember when he was on the rope in the front of the hood? And I think he went underneath, but it's been a long time. Maybe you can put it below. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but they talked about how they thought that had to be, but they didn't know for sure that was an homage to Yakima Canute's stunt in Stagecoach. Okay, so the fourth thing I can't stop thinking about, this is the last thing, is John Wayne. Such star potential. You see all these actors, they're great in this movie, right? Everyone's doing a great job. They're coming from theater, I would assume, so they're really well trained and but then John Wayne steps in front of the camera and it's like, what is that thing that makes some people just resonate above everyone else? Like this radiation of like charisma or charm, like you just want to look at them. It doesn't mean that you're like attracted to them, but there's something about that star quality. I'm not saying anything new here. I'm just still marveling at, why is it like that? Why does it work? And especially because, as Bogdanovich was saying in an interview about John Ford in this movie, that I guess John Wayne was like, he had been dismissed into like B movies and shit movies for 10 years. And the studios did not want him in Stagecoach. But he's like, no, this is the guy, I'm telling you. And he, the first shot of him is like a quick zoom. And it's just like, it's at night or dusk or something. And it's just a beautiful shot. And you could just see in his face, like, this guy's a star. Why didn't they see this before? Just thinking about what goes into that mix is a really fascinating thing as a film lover, human lover, just thinking about what makes some people have that edge in the way they behave or the way they look or the way that they're moving through space, the command they have, the presence, the way that they carry themselves, all these things. I don't know how much of it is thought out on his part, but I find it fascinating. So that's Stagecoach, first John Ford film that I've seen, and just kind of popped up as a suggestion in Criterion. I mean, as much as, I don't know how much that's being operated like an algorithm, but I found it and I thought, let's watch a few interviews about it. I thought it was great. I've loved Westerns my whole life, but you go back into the black and white 1930s, you're going to start to lose me a little bit. I like 70s Westerns and Eastwood and things like that. But Westerns, I've always had a weird relationship with them because I like them, but I don't go too deep into them. But the combination of the things that I'm talking about, that I can't stop thinking about, mixed in with all of these things it's really kind of hit me especially the beauty of the film. I still can't get over how beautiful this film is shot. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. John Ford's Stagecoach, 1939. What a different world, right? It's a good one. So let me know what you think. I want to know what your take is on Stagecoach. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's on Criterion. I still would love to hear what you think, your memory of it. For me, right there.